We are back once again with Tuskegee head football coach Willie Slater. We're going to talk about last week's victory over Albany State. It was a 19-13 victory inside the ASU Coliseum. And this week, the Golden Tigers go to Cleveland, Ohio to play the Division II defending national runner-up Winston-Salem State University in First Energy Stadium. Kickoff at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Coach, let's take a look back at last week's game. The offense really struggled. There was 4 fumbles, I believe, and 3 turnovers. What were you telling the guys at halftime? Y'all were down 1.76 at that point, and then there was a lot that had to be built up coming out of the locker room for you guys to eventually take the lead and win the game.
Really wasn't a whole lot to tell them at halftime. We knew exactly what the problems were. Had the fumbles and had the miscues. But we could tell that we could move the ball on it, you know. And so the second half, we were able to sustain a couple of drives, and that helped us to overcome. The big play though was the block punt when we had them backed up, and Caleb Williams did a great job on that.
Coach, you mentioned Caleb Williams. He actually earned the SIAC's Special Teams Player of the Week for that block punt. It rolled back to the 1-yard line. And then one play later, Justin Nord was able to score the touchdown. Talk about how the momentum shifted from that point going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that kicking game is a big part of it. We always talk about trying to win at least 2 phases, either kicking game in offense or kicking game in defense, but the kicking game is going to be a part of each one of them. And of course, we had talked about that in pregame. And that was the thing that really changed the momentum of the game.
You were trailing most of the game. Obviously, there's a lot to improve on. The good news is you're able to apply that for this game coming up this week, which is the biggest game, many people would say, of your non-conference schedule. Talk about Winston-Salem State. I know you guys have prepared for them en masse because they are the defending Division II national runner-up and of the reputation that they bring as a solid football team. Just talk about the challenges that this game brings and it being in Cleveland and just all the different things that you've had to deal with throughout the game prep this week.
Well, everybody's talking about, you keep talking about improving. I mean, we possessed the ball. We did have a couple of turnovers, but it wasn't turnovers that led the other team to score. So, in my opinion, you know, we played 2 very good football teams, 2 very good defensive football teams, and we fared pretty good because we scored more points than them. So I'm excited. I'm excited about going up to Cleveland and competing against Winston-Salem State. Looking at them on film, I think we match up good, and I'm excited about the challenge.
Coach, you've played these great defensive teams. Talk about the work of your defense. Obviously, the defense has played lights out over these past 2 weeks. They've had their share of mistakes, but it's never been anything that they couldn't handle to where they can get the ball back for the offense and then allow them multiple opportunities to score.
Been very fortunate in that we hadn't given up a whole lot of big plays. You know, big plays to me are plays that's over 12 yards. And defensively, they fared pretty good, especially between, you know, down inside the red zone. Now between the 20s, you know, people have been able to move the ball pretty good on us. But if you got a defense that can stiffen up in the red zone, you have a very good commodity there.
Final question I want to talk about is freshman running back Hydrick Lowe. He had the game-winning touchdown last week, and he's made a major impact with the carries that he's had so far in the first 2 games of the season. Talk about Hydrick and just talk about what he brings to Tuskegee football.
Well, we're very fortunate to have him here. He came here last spring, and very good person. He's a good person, first of all, but he's a hard-working young man, and we're going to have him 3 more years after this one, so I'm really excited about him. He's not the only one back there, though. We got Chris Anderson, he stabilized our backfield for us there for a long time, and then Hydrick came back in there at the end, so he had those fresh legs. And then we also have Tyree Brooks, who I'm expecting some really good things out of him once he gets used to what we're doing on offense.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our one-on-one this week with the coach, Willie Slater. Golden Tigers getting ready to play Winston-Salem State University in the Cleveland Classic Saturday, 1 p.m. up there in First Energy Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio.